Hi, everyone. This is a quick overview of tables in Excel and in Coda. Tables are a really powerful feature in Excel. And when I first discovered the table feature back in, I want to say maybe 2013, I was pretty, as I mentioned in the blog post, pretty like it just totally changed my belief about how data tables can work in Excel. Even though the feature came out in the Excel 2007 version, uh, this was a pretty powerful feature, and I'm going to show you what I mean in this table in Excel, and then we're going to go look at it in Coda. So this data right here is pretty simple. We have employees and tax rates. However, if you look at my file, I'm going to click down right here on the ribbon. If I click inside one of these cells, you notice that it has a table name of employees. Before, if you just kind of like look at this data as a regular list of data like this, it doesn't, it's really just like a regular list of data. And this is unformatted, of course, but if you want to pull in the tax rate, for instance, from this table down below here, you'd have to do a VLOOKUP in this column. I basically converted this list of data into a table to show you how powerful tables are in Excel and then also in Coda. So the first thing is, if you want to pull the tax rate percentage from this table right here, the first thing you're probably thinking about is, I'm just going to do a good old VLOOKUP formula, right? And that's pretty much what 99% of people would do in this scenario, and that's what I would have done. Actually, if we just, let's just try to do this over here for example purposes. I'm going to go here and just create, like, this is just a dummy table of tax rates. I'm going to convert this for now to a percentage format, and let's get rid of the decimal places for now. And let's just make this a little easier to understand. So get rid of that, get rid of that. This is salaries. Let's convert this to a currency we want. All right. So this is what old-fashioned Excel table would look like, and that's probably what most of you guys out there are doing right now. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see more clearly. Okay, so we know total tax for our given employee is going to be salary times the tax rate, correct? Nothing too crazy there. I'm just going to drag this formula down for now. So how would I get the tax rate? I would do a VLOOKUP. Take Seattle, pull this list, do absolute reference, put a 0, and then drag that formula down. And there we go. We have our tax rate, which is pulled from the tax table, and the total tax is basically a calculation of the salary multiplied by tax rate. So this is great, but what happens if I want to add another row here? Actually, let's insert a row right here really quick. Let's say I have another employee, and his name is John Smith, $30,000, and he is working in Seattle. And it's great because Excel automatically pulls in that formula for me. But there are a lot of times where this is not automatic, where let's say I insert a row down here and I say Johnny Appleseed. See what happens here. If I do 20,000. It's not super automatic because there's this extra row. So with tables in Excel, it makes adding dynamic number of rows makes it a lot easier to make these calculations on the fly. And so if you convert this static table into a table, if you just say, I believe it's in, I don't even know how I did this originally. There is a table option somewhere. Let's just, right there. So if I hit table, it turns it into a table. It says this is the range, hit OK, and there we go. So let's look at this current table we have here that I built. So if I do the VLOOKUP here, let's see what happens when I do the VLOOKUP. So I'm referencing the location column, but when I reference it, it turns it into this at location reference. And that is a very different paradigm changing thing that you'll learn from doing tables in Excel is that you're picking up the location as the column reference versus the cell reference. The cell reference is E5. Now, if I do a comma here and I select my tax rates table right here, you notice that I called this table tax rates. And since I select the entire range of cells, it defaults to hashtag all. And so now I'm telling Excel, okay, take the look up the location in my entire tax rates table. It doesn't matter how many rows there are, just look it up. I'm going to say 2 because I want the second column, 0. And look what happens when I press enter after I write my VLOOKUP formula. It automatically writes the whole formula down. And I didn't have to do this thing over here where, if you remember, I had to like drag and drop the formula down like that. So one key aspect of tables is that everything kind of calculates for the entire column. But there are some limitations to this, which I explained in the blog post. Let's say I add in a new column here. Notice how tax rate automatically changed to 0 because it's saying pick up column 2. But my column 2 is this new column that I added. So I'm going to get rid of this for now. This is great. This is a relatively simple solution. If I add a row here and I say John Smith, and let's say this person is from New York City. Obviously, there's no New York City yet, but if I go down here and I insert a row and I say NYC, tax rate here is 35%, then everything calculates perfectly. And so if you're adding new rows of data, a table is a much faster way of doing it. You don't have to drag and drop the formula down, and it just kind of works. I'm going to undo all this for now. So for those of you who are really big into Excel, you'll probably have heard of this whole VLOOKUP versus index match debate, right? So VLOOKUP is a really quick and easy way to get the data you want from this tax rates table. But if you had millions of rows in Excel, VLOOKUP can get pretty slow and cumbersome, and frankly, is just like a pain to work with because of how long it takes for things to calculate. So for any die-hard index match people, here's what the formula will look like with index match. So I'm going to start writing index, and I want to put in the array. So in this case, it's going to be, I want to pull the tax rates, which is this. You notice how I'm selecting it by using my cursor instead of writing out tax rates, because I don't know about you, but like as I'm typing out the cell reference or the table reference, like it's really hard to see like what I need to type, and I kind of have to guess a lot of times. So if I write tax, this thing is kind of covering it up with tax rates. And at this point, do I write tax rate itself, like a comma, like parentheses? But no, it's actually the way to reference the tax rate column in the tax rates table is by doing left bracket, tax, and you can't see like my what's popping up on my my Excel, like the autocomplete, but it's telling me I can use tax rate, and then I have to write right parentheses, right bracket rather. Then I'm going to do comma, and so the row number is where I start writing in the match, and the lookup value is going to be location. So I reference the at location here by using that, and then I'm going to select my cities here using my mouse, and see how I have to like it automatically shows that that it's tax rates and then city. And the key difference here is I have to put in a 0 for the match type, which I know is like super weird, but for those of you who use VLOOKUP, you know you always put a 0 or false at the end. Hit enter. Whoops, I'm missing a parentheses, and there you go. This is the optimized ideal solution for putting in the lookup to the tax rate column to calculate your total tax percentage for your employees. So this is kind of like an advanced formula, right? And these references are really nice because my tax rate column, if it moves around, it will always reference the tax rate. And so you can see how tables can be more dynamic in that it doesn't matter what cell references I'm using, because tax rates is a table object and tax rate is a column in that table. So let's remember this really long index match formula. I'm just going to copy this right now for now, but it's Ctrl C. And now I'm going to show you guys what this looks like in Coda really quick. All right, so this is Coda, as you may or may not have seen before. And I have the same exact data in my Coda table, and I have employees here, and I also have my tax rates down below. Same exact data, just laid out in a Coda table. The first thing I want you to notice is that when I look at the location column, it's a lookup from table, and this is a special column type only in Coda, and it's looking up to the tax rates table, which is right here. So tax rates is, again, our cities and tax rates, and I'm putting this column location in my employees table as a lookup from table to the tax rates table. So now if you click on these drop downs here, you notice that Detroit, Seattle, Milwaukee, these are all cities in my tax rates tables. And if I add more cities here, this becomes Pittsburgh. Not sure what the tax rate is. Let's just call it 36%. This now becomes an option I can pick in my dropdown. So how would I reference tax rate percentage here from my tax rates table? Am I doing VLOOKUP? Am I doing index match, a little more complicated version? None of that stuff. This is what that formula looks like. It's literally 2 words. And what's more important to me as a user, the formula pops up with all the different columns that I can reference in any of my tables and all of my Coda doc. So I'm going to reference location. So location is referring to this column. But since location is a lookup to this tax rates table, I can literally write dot and then tax rate. And tax rate is actually pulling from this column right here. So look what happens when I press tax rate. You notice how this tax rate becomes kind of like yellow or orange highlighted. Location is still the blue one. And if I hit enter, I just get the tax rate back from my tax rates table. So this is the Coda formula for getting the tax rate. Do you remember what the Excel formula was? I got it right here for you. Don't worry. I copied it from my old Excel file. This is the Excel formula for getting tax rate. Let's make this really big so we can see. That is the formula. Actually, let's make it smaller so we can see the whole thing in one line. So we got this guy, location.tax rate, to get our tax rate, versus if you want the optimized solution, you can use index match. Obviously, if you use VLOOKUP too, which is, in my opinion, a little complicated because you have to remember to put that 0 in there. But I definitely prefer location.tax rate versus this index match mess. Anyways, that is this tutorial on using tables in Excel and Coda. And thank you for watching.